China just dropped 148% tariffs on 7 of America's biggest industries: soybeans, steel, chips, autos, and even defense. This isn't just a trade war, this is economic warfare. And the numbers will shock you. Welcome to Voice on Pages, where we break down economics and finance through the world's best books. So what does that really mean? Look, we're not just talking about a few import taxes here. This is a sophisticated, calculated use of economic power. It's a deliberate strategy, right, designed to hit critical American industries, shake up global trade, and apply the absolute maximum political pressure. It's basically turning the very idea of global trade into a weapon. Okay, so how on earth did we get here? Well, this whole thing really ignited back in early 2025. And what started as, a series of smaller tariffs, it just spiraled out of control into this all-out economic confrontation. The speed of it all was, honestly, it was breathtaking. At their absolute peak, U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods hit a staggering 145%. But of course, this wasn't a one-sided fight. China wasn't just going to sit back and take it. They responded in kind. And this crazy, rapid-fire back and forth created a level of economic chaos the world hasn't really seen in decades. And what's really wild is the timeline. Just look at how fast this all went down. On April 2nd, both sides are at 34%. Just 1 week later, they're at 84%. And then 2 days after that, the U.S. hits that 145% peak. We're talking about a full-blown tariff spiral in less than 10 days. That is before a temporary truce was finally called in May. It just goes to show you how quickly a trade dispute can become a full-blown economic crisis. But here's the thing. These tariffs weren't random. Oh no, they were surgical. The first target, America's agricultural core. China aimed its economic weapons directly at the American heartland. And the results? They were devastating. This was never just about soybeans. It was about sending a very clear political message. This chart, wow, it says it all. In 2024, the U.S. sold $12.6 billion worth of soybeans to China. That was our single largest agricultural export to them. By the summer of 2025, that number dropped to zero, a complete and total halt. A $12 billion market, just gone, erased. And here is the crucial point. China didn't stop buying soybeans. They just stopped buying them from us. They pivoted. Brazil now supplies 65% of China's soybean imports. And Argentina, they secured the largest orders in their entire history. This move fundamentally rewired global agricultural trade, and that change could be permanent. And this quote just brings the human cost into sharp focus. For states like North Dakota, where a whopping 70% of their crop went to China, this is a crisis. But remember, this wasn't just an economic move, it was a political one, aimed squarely at key electoral states right in America's Farm Belt. But the attack didn't stop at the farms. The second wave targeted the very foundation of America's military and technological power: high-tech components. This move shifted the conflict from the fields of the Midwest right to the heart of our national security. This right here highlights a massive vulnerability. China processes 90% of the world's rare earth minerals. Now, these aren't just obscure elements on the periodic table. They are the essential ingredients for everything from your smartphone to advanced missile systems. And China, well, they have a near monopoly, a stranglehold. And here's why that matters so much. We're talking F-35 fighter jets, missile guidance systems, radar systems. All of it depends on those rare earths. By restricting their export, China put America's entire national security supply chain directly at risk. Suddenly, it's not just about the economy anymore. It's about the arsenal. So, an attack on the arsenal and the heartland was bound to have consequences. The ripple effects of this conflict didn't just stop at farms and factories. They spread across the entire U.S. economy, hitting businesses, workers, and ultimately, American consumers right where it hurts, in their wallets. Let's start with the big picture. The overall impact is a projected 1% drop in the entire U.S. GDP. Now, you might think the government is collecting more money from tariffs, right? But the slowdown in trade and business is so significant that it actually shrinks the whole economic pie. 1% might not sound like a lot, but for an economy the size of the U.S., we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars in lost value. And that lost economic value, it translates directly into lost jobs. Across all the industries hit by these tariffs, the net job loss is over 90,000. And these aren't just statistics, These are real jobs. especially in manufacturing sectors that were promised a revival, but are now facing layoffs because of all these disruptions. So where do all these costs end up? Well, with you. For those who keep their jobs, the pain comes in a different form. The tariffs and supply chain problems mean higher prices on everything from cars to electronics. The average American household is now facing a reduction in its purchasing power of about $3,800 a year. That's the real-world cost of this economic war. But the biggest consequence of all this might not even be the immediate economic pain. It's the long-term, maybe even permanent shifts it has created in global trade, in alliances, and in the very structure of the world economy. We are literally watching a new map being drawn in real time. For decades, the world has operated on U.S.-centric supply chains. That's the old reality. The new reality is a fundamental realignment. Companies are moving manufacturing out of China and into new regional hubs, places like Mexico, Southeast Asia, India. This idea of friendshoring is creating new trade blocs that are completely reshaping the global economic map. Which leaves us with this final, really critical question. We used to believe that countries trading with each other made conflict less likely, right? But this trade war, it suggests a totally different future. One where the very connections that bind our economies together can be turned into weapons. A future where your biggest trading partner could also be your biggest strategic threat.